Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, it's been about 18 months.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, since our guest was last on, and we're talking about the mayor of Southern Pines, Taylor Clement. Mm-hmm. It was December of 2023, and I remember in speaking with her, I said, this station and this show is open to you anytime you want to come in. So we kind of reached out to each other about a week or so ago, and it just happened where the timing was good. We're almost halfway through.
It was great timing.
It was good timing, huh? We're almost halfway through your term because you had just been elected in December of 2023.
Yes.
And we have so many things to ask you and to talk about, and I notice how much you try to over-communicate with the public. I've seen it. Necessary to do.
I was like, I think the more you can get out there and try to get yourself in front of people and able to answer questions or be there to, for people to ask questions to is always better.
So many of the talking points in December of 2023 have only gotten bigger. The patterns and the trends have remained the same, and we're going to go through all the specifics. But I have a big picture question to ask you before we get into the specifics. And what has been the biggest surprise to you, or what has caught you off guard the most about your experience as mayor in the first 17 or 18 months that you may not have anticipated?
Yeah, there is, the biggest thing is probably the weight of the title of mayor. When I ran, I was previously on the town council, and the way that our council is set up is the mayor doesn't have additional responsibilities. We don't have additional power. It's really someone to run the meeting. But as soon as I was elected, from people at the town level, staff, in addition to friends or acquaintances or just citizens, there's a lot of pressure that was put on me as mayor. There are people who I think want to be friends with me now because I'm mayor. There's people who want to run things, from the staff level, want to run it by me before it goes to someone else or before the council sees it. And so there's just an abundance of responsibility, an abundance of time requests, people who want my eyes on something, developers who want to run something by me, show me a project, and just get my opinion of it before it goes anywhere else. And it's just a heavy weight to that. And I'm happy to be doing it, but I didn't expect it at all. It is much more involved than just a council member position.
Yeah. Southern Pines is on fire in a good way. There's so many things happening as a town is seeing surges of growth and expansion. Mm-hmm. And some people are so excited, some people are a little caught off guard, and the positives and the negatives, the yin and the yang, it's an everyday thing.
It is.
We are no secret anymore.
No, that the secret is out for sure. And all of Moore County is growing, but Southern Pines in particular, I think, is seeing the majority of that growth. And it's really, you've got to see the good side of it first, which is people want to be here. People want to build here. They want to live here. They want to start a business. They want to move their kids here. And so with all of that pressure for people who want to be a part of our town, we get to be the ones to decide this is what we're okay with, and this is how we want it to look and to grow, and how we are going to adjust as the population changes. But it's not out of our control. I mean, we have some control over it, which is really important. And it's way better than the alternative of people moving out of the town and finding that tax revenue is going down and services are still high.
That's probably the number one reason why Baxter moved away from Southern Pines before he came back.
I think so.
Different world.
It is.
It was a different world.
He talks about growing up and there being tumbleweeds down Broad Street.
Yeah.
And as a kid, there being nothing to do. And now there's an abundance of things for kids and families and, everyone really.
One of the things you spoke about after you were elected, a month after you were elected, was the affordability issue.
Oh, sure.
In southern Moore County, in Southern Pines in particular. That trend has only gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
And
You probably see that more firsthand
all the time.
as a real estate. I mean,
It's heartbreaking.
it is.
It's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the buyers are up against it. They want to be here. They want to live here. They want to be close to work. But we see so many people who have to, either rent in areas tangential to Southern Pines or purchase and then commute. And I don't see any let up, especially with the new construction going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of building. Something that Southern Pines is doing, and Moore County Economic Development actually recognized us as the only town right now looking for a solution, is we are trying to focus on the missing middle, which is some of these young families who
Right.
are trying to buy a first home, and it's just not affordable. Like, yes, you can rent an apartment and you could live there forever, but if you want to actually own a house or get into a
Yep.
something that is a more family home, there's not a whole lot of that exists.
Right.
There's a lot of high income houses. I mean, there's expensive places in town for sure. And we've got a volunteer sort of subcommittee of people who are involved in building development, loans, real estate, working with our staff to come up with ideas of how can we provide opportunities for builders to create more of that entry-level home opportunity, because that's really what we need. We need homes for our nurses and our teachers and our young families, young professionals.
We're challenged by high interest rates.
Oh, yes.
Contractors are up against it because of the timelines involved, and the cost of money is so much more than it was. And all these questions, I agree with you. I don't have the answers. And to build a middle with land prices, first of all, scarce, and when available, high, makes it difficult. I will tell you that I have noticed a tremendous upgrade between Bennett and Page and Leak.
Yep.
Homes and the topography on the west side of town is not as slopey as it is on the east side. And there are some gorgeous craftsman style and cottage style homes, and some clients and friends of mine just are purchasing and moving into West Vermont, and they want to be in downtown. It's as desirable as the east side, and I see that continuing. That's going to continue to grow, I believe.
It will. So we're trying to provide the opportunities for that missing middle and redevelopment or infill development that provides opportunities for families to buy homes, while we're also up against gentrification. We don't want to prices of homes to go up so high that some of our older, long-term Southern Pines families suddenly feel like they have to relocate. And that's part of it's supply and demand with housing. If we don't allow any supply, the demand is already there. People are moving here. Home prices will skyrocket. Gentrification will happen very quickly. $200,000 homes will be torn down for $500,000 homes. $500,000 homes will be torn down for $1 million. And so we're trying to create a slow, steady flow of supply. We've put more regulations on apartments so they cannot be built as easily, which is going to push down supply a little bit. And so that's why this missing middle thing, we're really getting a push on to make sure that we're not closing off the new homes.
Way back when, before you may have been a twinkle in your parents' eye, I remember I think I just lost my power. I remember driving on Morganton Road, where the Walmart was in the Pinecrest
Yes.
shopping plaza.
Mm-hmm.
And that drive was a drive, it was like driving through Uwharrie Forest. Woods on both sides, and you kind of like fell out of the urban area of Southern Pines. You drove on this tree-lined causeway, and all of a sudden there was the Pinecrest Shopping Center. That's not the case anymore.
No.
And those apartments that are being built, I worry about the roads and the traffic, and obviously the new shopping center that has gone up with Target.
Yep.
I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yes. So the positive with the Target going in is that when they built, they created that new Carolina Green Parkway that connects two major artery roads, 15501 and Morganton. And so that takes some of the pressure off of those roads, because that really was, if you wanted to go anywhere between Southern Pines and Pinehurst, you were going by that, Pinecrest Plaza, where Belk is, formerly Walmart. So we're getting people off of those roads and getting them in different directions. And this is really hard. This is something that nobody likes, density, but we have to have density towards the central part of town.
Right.
Those apartments are located right next to an elementary school. They're right next to grocery stores. They're right next to shopping districts. They're right next to our medical complex. And so for those families that are right there, rather than having to drive from Carthage or Vass or Aberdeen, all coming into town to work, shop, school, whatever it is, they're now centrally located. And so we can actually reduce traffic by developing smarter. And that is such a hard thing to say, because I feel like there's so much hate that comes towards me as a mayor and our council members, because any growth for a lot of our residents is not good. It's bad. But we're trying to do it in a way that is better for traffic and better for preserving our open spaces on the edges of town.
That type of urban planning is smart, but the drawback is it shows just more and more development. But you're right, people can sort of live in these little conclaves that are subsets of the town without having to hit the road as much. I get that.
Something that someone told me years ago was, we have two options, and it's either density or it's sprawl. And nobody wants sprawl. And so what we have to do is we have to look for density where it makes sense. Yeah. And ideally, the apartments are not great. They will fill up. They'll be full of families. So I have no doubt they'll be needed. But ideally, that density comes in places like infill development, where we can put duplexes and quadplexes that look like single-family homes.
Right.
And so you get that density without it ever looking like it's density.
Yeah. Something tells me this is a topic or a question you've answered a few times in the last couple of months.
Yes.
We're going to come back in the second set. We'll go into some specifics about the long-range plan, things that you foresee coming forward in the next 2 years. Taylor Clement is our guest for the whole hour. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County with Southern Pines Mayor Taylor Clement. I'm so appreciative that you could come in and talk. You could come in any time and sit on any show. You're a great speaker.
Thank you.
I remember I moved here in 1999 through Mike Fields and Frank Quiss and Mike Haney and Carol Haney. I remember my takeaway always was, Southern Pines has a new long-term plan. It's available for the public to come in and view. These were 10, 20, 30-year projections. And I wonder how all those prior long-term plans, with all the changes that we have going on, how does that affect you And are you making changes to the plan as well?
So we are. Something that I initially ran for town council on was making sure that we updated our comprehensive long-range plan.
Okay.
It is sort of the map or the dreamscape of what we want Southern Pines to be. And when I think in 2013 was the last time that had been updated before. And you know better than anybody, Southern Pines is a totally different place in the last 10 years. We've seen a lot of growth, we've seen a lot of development, just a lot more people. And some of the things that the council was deciding prior to me being on it, they were making decisions based on a comprehensive plan that did not match what people wanted.
Right.
And so when I came in, we hired a consultant to redo that comprehensive long-range plan. And he put together, I want to say 7 or 8 maps of Southern Pines. And the first one was, this is what is currently allowed in Southern Pines if you don't change anything. And the best part of that consultant's job was that when people came in and saw that map, no one liked it. It was the one with the most post-it notes that said, this is a terrible place. I don't want to be here. It doesn't look like my town. And so it felt really good to know that we were fixing that. And so then he went and looked at, this is the growth that we have coming, and these are different places we can put it. One of those options was actually saying no to all growth. If we close the doors and say what's allowed by right now can still continue because we cannot stop someone developing a home on their home lot. But if we essentially close the door to new development or changing projects,
Right.
This is what Southern Pines looks like in the future. And it's also not great because what happens is our tax rate, in order to pay for the services required of our town, our tax rate has to go up so high for our current residents to sustain that level of services without any development, without any changes.
Yeah. The demographics of Southern Pines were so much different in 2013 as they are today. And so with the different demographic change, every group that comes in is going to have a different point of view. It's like you're caught in a windstorm, like a ping pong ball, and you have no cushion. It's back and forth. And you have a council, you have 4 members who are great to work with.
They are.
But you guys seem, I'm guessing you're challenged every day, and it's just kind of hard to find a sweet spot.
Yeah. And the good thing is our council all comes from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so we all provide different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I think that helps us come to decisions that are right for the general population. When we implemented or when we chose a final comprehensive long-range plan, we're kind of using our land use plan as the new term for it, but it is a 2040 plan, so it's looking forward 20 years. And it provides growth in areas that do make sense. Some of it are things that are hard. We know change is always going to be hard for citizens, but it's directing growth in a way that I think protects Southern Pines better than our former plans.
Okay.
And the county is actually going through that process right now as well. So they are looking at a land use plan forward-looking for the entire county, which affects all of the municipalities. And so we've tried to be involved in that as well.
With all the development going on and all the developers knocking on your doors, the other side of that coin is conservation.
Sure, yes.
And there are still so many areas in Southern Pines that are candidates for conservation versus development, but they're also very attractive for development. And yet, the thing I hear the most from people is they don't want the character
Yes.
to change.
100%.
And that's where I think about, so what's the equation, the development versus conservation?
Conservation is something that it can be expensive.
Yep.
We've been very fortunate that the Whitehall track was made available for us to purchase.
Right.
We combine that with Reservoir Park.
Right.
So we actually have one of the biggest green spaces in North Carolina. We have the fourth largest in North Carolina. Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible.
I
And
mean,
that's a beautiful setting.
For a small town, we're really the only small town on that top 10 list. We also, Weymouth had
Yep.
300 additional acres that were donated to Weymouth.
Right.
So that's now in conservation.
What about out Camp Easter Road as you go up towards Lake Bay?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know if there's areas up there that we can. And that actually might turn into what's our ETJ.
ETJ.
Yes.
For people have a question always about ETJ versus
Yep.
the city. Southern Pines has jurisdiction over the ETJ, which
Yep.
is extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Yes. Okay, so this ETJ thing is a huge issue, so I'm glad
Right.
it came up.
Okay.
Last summer was the first time that the state legislature decided that they were going to remove ETJ areas. So essentially, it is the edges of Southern Pines where we still have development jurisdiction. We can say what's allowed and what's not allowed. They do not pay Southern Pines taxes.
Right.
So it's sort of representation without taxation, which is kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people.
Yep.
But developers don't like it because it's higher standards than what would otherwise be allowed through Moore County. The biggest issue with the ETJ for Southern Pines is that all of horse country is in our ETJ.
That's right.
And it breaks my heart to think that that part of Southern Pines is not truly part of Southern Pines.
The revenue stream.
Yes. Well, the revenue stream doesn't exist. Yes, we have jurisdiction. Yes, I want to protect it. That is absolutely, when you talk about Southern Pines character, horse country is a huge part of who we are. And if our ETJ goes away, I no longer have any jurisdiction there. So the people who live in the ETJ either have to voluntarily annex into Southern Pines, which means they have to pay Southern Pines taxes in
Right.
order to get that oversight from our town council, or they will be under the county. And the county is wonderful and they do a great job of a lot of things.
Sounds like there's a but.
You could hear it coming.
I can hear it coming.
But they cannot provide that much planning and oversight for so many areas of our county, because Southern Pines ETJ is just one of the 10. There's a lot of areas that they just don't have the staff to do it.
Right.
And I'm afraid so I came from Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
And I lived out on Man o' War, an entire area named after horses.
Right.
When I first moved out there with my family, I was surrounded by tobacco farms and horse farms.
Right.
The tobacco farms went away first. And so then it was, okay, well, we have now neighborhoods surrounded by horse farms. And right after that, the first horse farm fell and turned into, a giant grocery store and a Target and restaurants and retail. And it's a domino effect that once one of them falls, then the value or the feel of the property next door kind of loses as well. And so it makes me very nervous to think that any of our horse farms could redevelop into commercial or dense housing. It would be very sad to the
Yes.
culture of Southern Pines to lose that.
You came to Southern Pines with a pedigree as a financial investment advisor. And so you have the discipline to sit down and look at numbers and analyze.
And look long term. I feel like that's a really big part of it as well, is not just what's happening now,
Yeah.
but what it means for the future.
So is the trend with all the development, the commercial growth, is the ratio of expenses to revenue stream, is it trending in the positive direction that you're hoping?
Yes.
So the base is getting stronger.
Yes, the base is getting stronger. We are growing population-wise.
Yeah.
We have a really big influx of daytime population, people who come here for work and shopping.
Yeah.
So we do have a high demand on our services during the day, traffic, police.
Yep.
But the revenue that's generated from that growth has far outweighed the expense for us. Not far outweighed. It has outweighed the expense for us in a way that post-COVID, we are all suffering from this
Right.
this incredible inflation that families are struggling to keep up with, towns are struggling to keep up with, businesses the same.
Right.
And that growth has actually put us in a position where we are financially comfortable to continue providing services without increasing tax rates on our families.
Yeah, I think I just read the other day, you're working on your budget right now.
We are.
And the tax rate's not going to change.
Nope.
Which is great, because the services that are offered are terrific in Southern Pines, and I think that will mollify a lot of people.
I
right?
think people, they tend to want more services.
Sure.
And so we're constantly battling what else can we provide without it being a burden on our taxpayers.
Yeah.
And we
What-
just put the skate park in was one of the
Yep.
changes. And it actually was something that happened quickly, which I love, but we were able to work with Skaters for More, put a skate park in. It's been busy every day. We're actually having our budget to put in lights so that it can be used later in the evening. And they call it a third space. So it's not home, it's not work, it's this third space, a place that you can go and socialize and have interactions with other people, congregate, that sort of provides quality of life. And that's what we're really trying to focus on, is quality of life for our residents.
Yeah. When we come back in the third set, I want to open up a conversation with you about water.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, and get your long-term take on the water issue, because as we see all the growth, water is a big concern.
Let's touch back on traffic too.
And traffic, too.
Okay.
Might be glad to. Taylor Clement is our guest. She is the mayor of Southern Pines. She's in her first term, and I say that with a question mark at the end. We'll talk about that in the third set. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to All Things Moore County. It is a pleasure to have Mayor Taylor Clement in with us today, updating us on the business of the town of Southern Pines, the town we all love. And we've been touching on a lot of issues, and maybe this is a Cliff Notes version of everything, but how much can you do in 45 minutes?
I feel like every time a topic comes up, it could be a whole show.
Right.
We might bore people,
It could be.
but it definitely could be.
We've been talking about a lot of the growth, the commercial growth, which is every time one of my siblings comes down from the New York area, they look around and they say, "Oh my gosh, this is not
changed."
recognizable." And they've seen the growth since I've lived here. I'm in my 26th year. The concern about water going forward is got to be on the forefront of the council's mind.
It is, but we are actually it's a bigger issue for the county. Southern Pines was very forward-thinking, I think in the 80s, early 90s, when we built our water plants. So we're one of the few municipalities that does own our own water.
Right.
And we built a plant that is big enough to process at least twice what we currently use. So right now we're selling water to the county and selling, I guess some of that water from the county goes to Pinehurst, or
Yeah.
from us to Pinehurst directly.
Yeah.
So we have been talking with the county. They have asked us, they had civil engineers look at their long-term water issue and recommend that they go into a partnership with Southern Pines. So they approached us and asked if it was something we'd be willing to talk about. And it's a kind of rocky conversation because, yes, I think that water is an essential part of municipal life and government. And so, of course, we would be happy to partner. And I think there are potential benefits for the residents of Southern Pines. If we go into a partnership where we share fixed expenses and produce more water, we could absolutely bring the water rate down for our citizens. In addition, we would change our water plant in a way that would make it more resilient, so drought resilient, which would be a really big positive for us. But the problem comes with the whole development issue. And the county is pushing so much growth at the edges of our town that if there's a real concern that if we partner with them on water, that we are actually allowing, we're allowing that growth in places that we actually aren't sure that we want or need it.
Right.
So It's a balancing act because if we don't work with the county will absolutely find another water source. It will end up costing the citizens of Moore County more. But we're trying to work with them in a way that allows us some control of growth if we go into that deal.
So today you're in an enviable position.
We are.
It could be a profit center, but 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you don't want to shortchange yourself.
No, we want to make sure that we maintain maximum control of the things that we currently control. So if we went into that partnership, we would maintain the capacity to create as much water as we currently have, and they would build onto our plant. But it also, if it opens the door for unprecedented growth on the edges of Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen, or wherever else in Moore County, that's something that we have a good relationship, or I have a good relationship with our county commissioners. But it's an ongoing discussion on how do we make sure that we protect not just Southern Pines, but we use that water as a resource to make sure that however it impacts the rest of the county.
What about water pressure?
Yeah.
It's like catching a bird in flight, depending on where you are.
The infrastructure is, a lot of it's older.
Right.
Southern Pines has a timeline on replacing some of that. Specifically, there's requirements on lead-based pipes, making sure that they come out. So we are looking into anything that could be lead pipes, but there's also clay pipes. I mean, especially out in the Knollwood Heights area,
Yep.
trying to replace those pipes. And it has been painful taking trees down where roots are growing into the water system. And nobody wants to see plants come down, but part of it is protecting that underground piping.
I'm glad you brought up the trees because that isn't the only reason that trees are coming down.
They're coming down for a lot of reasons, yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about
Sure.
that? Okay.
So Southern Pines is taking trees down where we are required to from Duke Energy or the piping system. NCDOT is taking trees down on Midland Road because we've had so many accidents. And Midland is a beautiful road. It's just narrow, and people fly down the road. And because you have large growth longleaf pines on both sides and the middle, as you drive by, you can see the bark missing from a lot where they have been hit. So they have decided to take some of those trees down and just rework the road slightly to make it safer. I think the biggest thing that NCDOT is taking trees out is down US 1 and 15501.
For widening.
Widening the roads. That's a huge project. That's something that I think had we planned better, and this is that trying to look at long term. I don't want to ever look at past councils and say they could have done something different, because I know someone will look at me and say the same. But there is more planning work that we could have done.
Right.
And one of those things, I'm going to jump to traffic and we're going to come back to trees. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so the southern part of our county has actually turned into a metropolitan area. Some
Yes.
call it micropolitan, but
I agree.
because of the density, it's over 50,000 people in the southern part of the county. We actually have a metropolitan planning organization, which is federal money towards traffic planning. We've never had it before, and so it's within the last 18 months since I've been mayor, that organization has been created, started. We have staff, we meet every month, and we talk about long-term planning goals. And mayors or representatives from the municipalities of the southern part of the county all come together, and we work through some of that stuff that had we had that opportunity in the past, maybe we wouldn't be seeing some of the changes on US 1, it becoming a super street like it is now. So that's the meeting I have after this.
Can I go with you? No.
Oh, it's so much fun. You'll love it.
Oh, I bet.
So I'm actually the chair of that organization as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, I probably would have loved to miss it, but just one more responsibility that I take on.
I sit on US 1 sometimes, and I feel like I'm I'm entering the George Washington Bridge, and I've many times would commute into Manhattan and wanted to just abandon my car.
Yeah. It doesn't look like Southern Pines or Aberdeen now. It's very painful to see US 1. And when I ask the DOT about putting back in plantings or greenery or shrubbery, the answer was, we'll have some sort of water irrigation control. And I was like, that's not what I meant. I was like, I mean green things. Just put something in, because it really, part of when we create regulation on planting, Southern Pines has very high standards of
Yes.
what you need to plant afterwards.
That's right.
And that, it may not look good right away, but it grows in, and it creates that feel of what Southern Pines is. And so we would like to have more.
What does the Department of Transportation say to that?
I sort of got a funny quizzical look, like,
Yeah.
like
what
I
are
mean,
you
he's an
talking about?
engineer, yes. So from his standpoint, he's just like, but why is that necessary? Yeah, it's hard to show them how important it is, the visual, how important that
The
is.
visual right now, as you're going down 1 South and you're passing the China Garden Buffet, it just concrete. It looks like Fort Lee, New Jersey. You've
Mayor
got,
Farrell is very upset about it as well.
all these concrete structures, one on top of the other, a storage facility. Visually, it's not appealing,
Yep.
and it goes back to all the protected, buffered areas have done nothing but increase in value. But the landscape has changed if you look at the whole picture, right?
Yeah. So we need, there's a highway corridor overlay that is super important to Southern Pines, and I would say probably most municipalities, that along these major roads, you really need a protected buffer. You
Yeah.
need some green space. And when you drive along any highway or down US 1, you can see the trees and the literal landscaping on both sides, and it feels like a more pleasant drive because of that highway corridor overlay. And it's something that we need to make sure at the county level they continue to enforce and protect, because those roads between municipalities will feel like West End or even US 1, where things are built right on the highway, unless we protect that overlay.
And what about the prognosis for Morganton Road with the apartments, with the shopping centers? It's looking a little like Cary in its early stages.
So you will see the plants are starting to grow, at least around the
Yes.
apartments.
Yes.
Something that we failed to do with that apartment complex, the newest one, is the council at the time requested that the developers maintain an undisturbed buffer along Morganton Road. And we did not have requirements in our UDO that held them to that requirement. So we are implementing that comprehensive long-range plan, trying to create that vision and put it into regulation. And one of those regulations that we are working really hard to get in place now is a Tree Protection Act. And that Tree Protection Act will require that like the buffer along the roads
Yep.
will be undisturbed.
Yeah.
Or that some of the older growth trees, the things that should be protected, are not touched. And obviously there will be, depending on the development, some give and take to make sense.
The trees and the traffic go hand in hand.
They do. And it's something that will make the traffic feel less cumbersome is if it looks nicer and if there's landscaping along the road. So we're doing our best to protect it.
Okay. Another topic, short-term rentals.
Oh, I gotta go. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. So it's not the exact overlay of the historic district,
Yeah.
but it's close.
It's close, yes.
Where short-term rentals are permitted. I mean, Pinehurst is grappling with it in their own way, but we already have it set.
We do. We have it allowed by zoning in the general business area,
Right.
And not allowed in residential areas.
Right. So that the homeowners are not going to feel encumbered by it.
Or displaced. I mean, I think that a lot of short-term rentals, people are buying homes, and it takes away from the neighborhood feel because you no longer have a neighbor. You have
Right.
a hotel.
Transient.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though the overlay district is so attractive and it's vintage Southern Pines, still, if you have a lot of turnover, it doesn't create a sense of permanence. Yeah.
We're one of the few families who live in that general business area
Yeah,
downtown.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, and we enjoy it, and we enjoy the life around us and the transients and the train coming and going. But that's not, people don't move into neighborhood communities for that same feeling. And so we're doing what we feel like is right to protect it.
Right.
That is another thing that at the state level, they are trying to take away municipal control of short-term rentals. That's why I was joking that I had to leave, because it's a tough subject, and it
is.
It will make enemies on both sides very quickly.
Very quickly. Your three boys are now, I think, between 8 and 12.
Oh, 7 and 12. The youngest turned 7.
And 12.
Yep.
Okay. So they're becoming more acutely aware of what mom does and the time demands that you have on the job. And a year and a half from now, we could be sitting back here again, and I could be asking you, as they get older, do you have visions of trying to stay in the position where you are as you go?
I think the reason that I'm here now is that not just the opportunity came up, but there was a need. That it was a position that I had gotten. I mean, even council, you start getting involved and you realize I can't fix the things that need to be fixed from here. And so I ran for council. And then the opportunity to be mayor was kind of another step in that same direction of, if this is the direction that really we want Southern Pines to go, I want to help steer it. And so that's why I'm here now. And I think that if that opportunity continues, and my kids, my husband, if all of that are still flexible enough to make it possible, I absolutely, I care enough about Southern Pines that I will rise to whatever occasion I am needed.
You do that consistently.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you on. Again, all these talking points are something that I think people need to hear.
Absolutely.
And I think you're a great communicator. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Bill.
Taylor Clement, Mayor of Southern Pines, and I really do want to have you back whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.